She is a person you just like, a good person, talented, who is using those talents in several good positive ventures, including singing, interviewing, and ring announcing, which leads us to the Professional Fighters League. Wow, MMA, PFL MMA is her current home ring announcing, and PFL kicked off its second phase, round 2 of its return in June. Lilian Garcia, thank you so much. What is it like being a part of PFL, different format, regular season playoffs, but MMA?
Oh, man. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I always love speaking with you. And, dude, I love that intro. So thanks for that. I tell you what, making the transition from WWE to MMA has just been so much fun. And I really do have to thank the late Howard Finkel and Tony Chimmel, who instilled that love of ring announcing into me. And just now transitioning to MMA and getting to announce these big fights. And it seems to me like I'm in the Elimination Chamber, cage every week. It's so cool. It's really been a lot of fun.
Well, Lilian, you mentioned Howard Finkel and Tony, two of the best, and Howard, a legend, WWE Hall of Famer, just outstanding all the years. He's many decades, just incredible announcing, ring announcing. What is it like for you? Because I'm guessing that when you're growing up, when a person's growing up, they're not per se saying, oh, I want to be a ring announcer one day. But how did that sort of morph for you? And did you even know that you could make a career out of ring announcing?
Definitely no to the latter. I had no idea I could make a career to ring announcing, but I will say it's something that I'm so glad I took a chance on. And it's something that has led me down a road that I never foresaw, but it's been so much fun and has opened the opportunity to so many other things. Because my path was always singing. I always saw singing was going to be the number one thing that I did. And it was my agent who actually gave me the opportunity to audition for it. And the best advice that I ever took was him saying, look, go to the audition. You never know what might come of this. And so I did. And I remember that when I left the audition, I felt like I did really well. And it's funny because the audition never said anything about ring announcing. It was all like backstage interviewing, meeting people within the company. And I just felt like it really went well. And in my mind, I was like, oh, my God, what happens if they ask me to do this? Like, should I take it? And I just remember saying, hey, God, if it's meant to be, make it obvious. If it's not meant to be, make it obvious. And when they called, they said, we'd like to try you out for 2 to 3 months, and you could quit at any time. That, for me, was obvious. And so I took the job August 23rd of 1999, and it was my very first day on the job that I was told at 3:30 that afternoon that I would be ring announcing that night. And like I said, thank God for Howard Finkel, for Tony Chimmel, who really helped me. And I made a 15-year career at WWE, and now in my second year in the PFL with MMA. So, it's just been wonderful to also be able to incorporate singing within it. So I got more than what I even bargained for.
It's an amazing twist and turn. You never know where the road will lead. And where you wanted to be a singer, actually being a ring announcer for WWE did open doors for you. And to become a singer and perform in front, because WWE gave you an outlet to sing on their shows at times, to perform in front of thousands, tens of thousands of people live and millions watching around the world. How do you quantify or put that into perspective?
Yeah, I love your question, and I love how you pointed this out, because it's wild. For the longest time, I felt a little bit like, wow, did I not live up to that little girl's dream of having a full-time singing career like I thought in my mind it had to look like? And it was through doing my Chasing Glory interviews that I realized life is not going to it's never going to look the way you thought it was going to look. But if you can embrace all the opportunities that it brings, even when it looks different, that's when I think you really do create a career career and something you can look back at and go, whoa, man, that was even more. And so for me to get the opportunity to sing, you know, especially our national anthem, to sing it before every single event, to do it in Iraq and Afghanistan, surrounded by the soldiers, to be the first person to sing it after 9/11 in a public forum, to then sing on 4 different WrestleManias, and then release 2 albums during the WWE, and now currently working on another album. I'm so blessed because my singing career that I thought had to look one way has definitely expanded and looked so much bigger, because I've also been able to tap into a fan base that is so amazing, so loyal, and I just couldn't be more grateful.
When you look back at that August day, first ring announcing, do you remember the first match in WWE that you were the ring announcer for?
All I remember, because that night was a fog, I don't remember the first match. Good thing for you to point that out. I got to figure out what that is. But I do remember that my first on-camera, where they officially introduced me as the brand new ring announcer, was when I introduced Tess. I do remember that. But I don't remember the first match, and I'm telling you, it was just scary the whole night.
You say you were like in a fog, and that's interesting because because now when you watch you, and even over the years in WWE, it just seems so natural. You just took well to it. It's not easy. It's not easy being a TV commentator. It's not easy being an interviewer, a referee. It's not easy being a ring announcer, especially in WWE. There's so much going on. It's a lot of live action. You were able to just carve a niche for yourself and do so well. The fans loved you. You did things well. How do you look at you today as a ring announcer compared to those first few months of Lilian Garcia, newbie ring announcer? Will this work?
Oh my God, the emoji of me with my hand over the face comes to mind, because, I cringe so bad when I hear those first ring announcements. But it also goes to show you that you don't have to be great when you start at something. You just have to be consistent. You have to keep growing. You have to keep studying. You have to keep trying. You have to keep improving. Like, that's in every single facet of your life. And so that's what I did. You know, I went home after that first week, I remember, and started memorizing everybody's weights and pounds, and learning who had what title, and because we had to memorize everything for WWE. From day one, I was not allowed to use one cue card. So that really made me better, though. And being on live TV and making mistakes on live TV, and then being okay with that and just being like, all right, brush that off. Keep moving forward. You're just going to make mistakes, but it's okay. Keep moving forward. So I really hope that people can take that into their own lives and just know that it's just consistency.
Do you look at WWE and see a time where Lilian Garcia says, okay, this event, this year, this time, I got it. I feel really comfortable now. I'm not as nervous. Still butterflies, but not as nervous. Was there any event or time frame where you were like, this is it. This is good. I feel good about doing this, and I know I'm doing well at it?
You know, what comes to mind was how I was actually having my own mental battle with it. And when I say that, it's like let's say there was 10 matches that I would announce. If things were going really well, match after, let's say, match number 8, and I only had 2 more matches, I would be like, oh my God, okay, 2 more matches. You've got to have a perfect night. You can do this, or don't mess up, and then I would mess up. And it seemed like it was just this constant battle. And I remember I hired a coach to help me out. And when I mean a coach, I mean like a coach, I don't know if you call them life coaches or mental coaches, or, just someone to really help you when you're mind gets in the way, when your demons get in the way of trying to sabotage you or tell you you can't do something. And I remember telling my coach, I'm like, what is it that I'm always getting to, like, match number 8, and then something happens and I can't have a perfect night. And then he's like, it's okay. So what if you don't have a perfect night? Like, stop trying to be perfect. And I feel like as soon as he did that, it alleviated so much off my shoulders that I started having fun with it. And so I remember there was a shift. I don't remember what year it was, but I just remember there was a shift where I started having more fun and less trying to be perfect. And that's what, that's the main thing that I remember when you talk about that.
Well, Lilian Garcia, there was only one perfect, and that was Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig. So I wanted just to clear that up. And then, and the other thing is, Lilian, remember Nike's phrase, just do it?
Yeah.
That comes to mind because I think Nike was saying, hey, just do it. Don't worry. You've already trained. You know what's going on. Just do it. So I think that's cool you hired a life coach to help you out in that regard. I think things like that are very beneficial for anyone in any business or any stage.
Extremely beneficial. I still have one, like, because my goals are big, and yet my mind can play games on me, and I think that that's with most people. You know, we compare ourselves, we talk down to ourselves. My gosh, if anybody could hear sometimes the things that we say to ourselves, it is awful. We are our worst friends. And so I say, be careful as to what you're saying to yourself, right? But it's life coaches that I think really can help to change the narrative as to what you should be telling yourself and how you should be striving more and how you can do more than you think you can do. And like you just said, just do it. Nike's definitely saying just do it. But that part of, hey, you've been training, just do it. I didn't have any training. And yet I still just went there and just did it. And I learned on the job. And so I tell everybody, if you get an opportunity, just do that, even if you're not trained. And you will eventually, with persistence, with determination, you will get good at it.
And you got very good at it. I'm curious, Lilian, when the MMA opportunity unfolds and Professional Fighters League comes calling, did you have reservations about doing MMA ring announcing?
I did. And it was only because I wanted to make sure that if I made the transition that I could do it justice. And it was in my first meeting with James Mormelli and George Greenberg that I walked out of that meeting feeling a lot better about being set up to win in the transition. And what I mean by that is I specifically said to them, if I do this, I need to make sure that I have someone or a team that can really help guide me as to the MMA lingo, as to how I can make sure to do the best introductions that I can for these fighters. I don't want to learn on the job necessarily for them this time around. And they did. They set me up with Josh Fowler in the first year that I did it. And then now I am with Josh, with Greg Savage, and also Ed Lima. And between the three of them, they just make sure that all my questions are answered, and I'm just set up to win all the way around. And I think that is what makes a difference in anything, is make sure that you are surrounded by a great team.
And that's very good words, because you want to set up to succeed, not set up to fail. And build on your strengths. If there's something you can't do, don't do it. Do what you can do. It's a very interesting mindset, not just for ring announcing, but like also you mentioned, for anything. You mentioned that WWE dynamic of ring announcing where you have to know it. You have to memorize it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
In PFL, are you able to use cards? Are you able to use your phone or any technology to help with the fighters, where they're from. And to me, it seems like in MMA world, there's a lot more revolving doors with the fighters than in pro wrestling world.
Absolutely. It's a lot more revolving, plus there's a lot more stats that you have to give with these fighters, and it's constantly changing. Their records are changing, their weights are changing. Sometimes you talk about the amount of stoppages or knockouts that they've had in their records. The info is just very different every time. So, yes, we can use cue cards, but I definitely still focus on having a style to my announcing and working on that and just making the fight sound huge. And what I love is when I get feedback from the fighters saying, oh my God, when you made my announcement, I had goosebumps and you fired me up for the fight. And that is what tells me I've done my job. When not only I can fire up the fans, but fire up fighters, because they're about to go in there and do some business. And I need that. I need as my job to do that for them, to give them those goosebumps and get them ready.
How much easier was it because you were able to use the cards?
Oh, not much easier.
Oh, really? Not much easier. Oh my God! I would think like you'd have the card and you'd be like, all right, yes, I want to put my own style. I want to be knowledgeable. I want to know this too. But oh my God, I've got a card in front of me. Wow! I never had this in WWE.
Well, I'm glad I have the card. But like I said, there's so much more that you have to announce, and there have been times that I've gotten tongue twisted, in saying it. So that's the other flip side, is that you have so much more that you have to say for the introduction that you can have that kind of slip up. So I never take anything for granted, and I just really study hard, and I tell people, do that. Never take anything for granted. Just study really hard, prepare really hard, so that you can do your best. And that's all you can expect out of yourself, is just do your best.
Well, and Lilian, I think too, is there any learning or training in the sense of, okay, if you do slip up a little, that you just, hey, go with the flow. If you continue and just do your thing, don't worry about it, and people may not even catch it.
True. People might not even catch it at all. And most of the time, that's what's happened. Like, even when I said there was a fighter, he was 5'7", and for some reason I kept saying 7'5". And I stopped myself, and then I tried again, and 7'5", and then I just 5'7", things like that. Like, it's just going to happen. But I remember even just the other day, I went to announce this was in the weigh-ins, and I went to announce the fighter in the blue corner, and I said, in the red corner, and literally I just said, excuse me, in the blue corner. And, commentators do that all the time. They'll say the word excuse me, and people just expect it, newscasters, all of that. They correct themselves. It stands out a little more when you do it in ring announcements, but at that point, I really couldn't think of anything else to do but to say, excuse me. And guess what? Not one person said anything. It's not a big deal. I think that's the thing I've learned working with the coach, too. We make things bigger in our heads, and anyone that calls you out for it is what they typically call a hater, where they're just feeling like they just want you to mess up to make their life feel better in some way. And you just have to feel sorry for those people and just keep doing your thing.
Yeah, we don't, right. There's no need for that. You're always going to get, there's plenty more positives. Let's focus on the positives anyway, because there's so many more out there on the positives. I'm just curious, though, and I'm not trying to be negative, I'm trying to be positive, but was Vicky Guerrero mad you were using her excuse me?
Very cute, very cute. I think she's all right, because I didn't do it in her style.
Yes, she can. It's only her style. That's true. It's out there. It's outlandish. All right, I'm going to segue into this, and a few more questions. We'll wrap this up, and we'll end it with PFL, of course. But you mentioned 7'5", and I'm thinking, oh, maybe the fighter was from France. Maybe she had Andre the Giant on her mind. A&E biographies, A&E's biography series, WWE's biography series. on the A&E Network has just been awesome with the legends. And I'm watching the Stone Cold Steve Austin, and who's on it but Lilian Garcia? What was it like being?
So cool.
Yeah, what was it like being a part of that? And about any of the shows you were able to watch in that biography series?
I loved being a part of the biography series. When they called me to ask me to be a part of it, I mean, it was just a huge compliment. They said that they watched my episode or listened to my episode of Chasing Glory with Steve, and they learned things about him that they never knew, like that whole Dairy Queen story and how shy he was. And they realized that they really wanted to do a deeper dive on Steve and have people hear that side of him. And they said, we really want you to be a part of it. I know, you and Steve have so much history of you guys, drinking the beer, singing them Memorial Day weekend, and also just being friends for so many years. So it was very special for me because he's such a great guy and such a giving person. And when I watched it, I was in awe because I didn't even know some of those stories myself. So it really was something that, for the fans, it will take you behind the curtains and to show you what an amazing, amazing man Stone Cold is.
I also think it's fair enough to say, because Stone Cold Steve Austin in his heyday was stunning everybody, but he didn't stun Lilian Garcia.
No, he just sang with me and popped some beers.
Oh my God, so cool.
I'm happy with that.
That is so. I would be too.
Yes.
All right, Lilian, we're going to a couple more questions and we'll wrap this up. The one thing is, geez, Lilian, you mentioned about wanting to do big things and being successful and just having a life coach and putting it all together. How many hats are you wearing today? What are your hats? And I'm guessing they're all designer type hats as well.
Well, actually, my music hat is definitely on. So I've got my PFL hat. I've got my music hat. I just went in the recording studio last week in a year. Felt so good. And I plan to do more of that as I continue to write and continue to record. And I'm going to be recording a new single soon. So that's exciting. I have a project that I'm working on that I can't really say much about. But I can't really say much about it.
No, Lilian, that's okay. I'm not here. This thing is not to reveal anything either or to bring out anything. But I'm just curious, is it a different field, or is it still in sort of the fields that you've been in, or is this a different field?
Oh, no, it's just an item that somebody can purchase. So I'm excited about that. It's an idea that I've had for like 2 years. And so we're finally creating the prototype now and just seeing how that all works out. And it'll be really cool to release this. So that's another hat that I'm wearing. And then Chasing Glory, I did it for 4 years solid, going into the 5th year. I took a break while doing PFL and reporting, and that was on purpose because I realized a couple things while I was doing these interviews. I was listening to people chasing their glory, and I realized I wasn't really chasing mine. Doing the interviews has been amazing and so fulfilling, but I realized that not having music in my life was definitely something that was hurting me mentally, physically. I mean, I just felt sad. And so between that and then really wanting to devote the time that PFL required, I needed to go ahead and move forward on that as well and just put Chasing Glory on the side. And now trying to figure out what's the best way to bring it back and if I should even bring it back. And I think that that's important for people to realize. Just because you've been doing something for a while, it doesn't necessarily mean sometimes that you need to continue it. If your path changes and goes in a different direction, it's okay. It's just a chapter in your life that closes and another chapter opens. So that's a hat right now that is not on, and I don't know whether it will be on. We'll see.
Oh, Lillian, a couple of things with the music. Will that be English and Spanish?
Oh, absolutely. I love singing in both, and I can't take the Spanish out. It's just something that's in me. It was my first language, and I love singing in English. So both.
And we'll have a new hat, the entrepreneurship. Good for you. And then you mentioned about chasing glory. And it's interesting because you're saying, well, don't know where that road is going with Chasing Glory, with the podcast, the interview show. Maybe, Lillian, maybe a special. Maybe it becomes once, twice, 3 times a year, a Chasing Glory special. Who knows?
Yeah, when I went on the WWE Network, we ended up deciding that we were going to do it as a season. So in other words, season 1, even though it was after 150 episodes, season 1 was on the Chasing Glory network. I'm sorry, on the WWE Network. And it made us realize, wow, that's really cool. I want to do these seasons and not do 52 weeks a year. And that keeps it more special. It keeps me more sane. And it allows me to have that space of chasing my own glory and doing these other projects that are so fulfilling to me. And it's a way for me to give back to people through my music and through projects. So we'll see.
Well, Lillian, I want to thank you as always for taking the time, very much so. Always enjoy speaking with you, catching up, seeing what's happening for you. Always good things, big things, positive things going your way because you're a good, positive person. I believe the karma reflects itself. In closing, Lillian, PFL, MMA, Professional Fighters League, it's such a different format because with this group, it's a regular season and then playoffs. And by the way, we'll be seeing you in August when PFL starts its playoffs here in South Florida at the Hard Rock Casino.
Yes, I'm so excited. The regular season's been in Atlantic City, and then we're going to shift over in August. I love it. August 19th, which happens to be my birthday, we're going to be on big ESPN that night. So it's going to be a lot of celebration in the playoffs in August, and then the championship later on in the year. And, for people that don't follow the format, you can still catch up, and I love this format. It really does let you follow the fighter's journey. And then at the end, it's all to win $1 million in each of the divisions, which there's 6 divisions. So that $6 million pursuit is ongoing right now. And it's just very exciting to watch. And I have to give props to Brandon Loughnane and Tyler Diamond, who left it all on the mat this past week and gave us a fight that, man, will be remembered. And it just shows the heart of fighters that just never gave up. And for anybody that wants to see a fight full of hits, but full of heart, go back and watch that. You can catch that on ESPN Plus. Brendan Loughnane and Tyler Diamond.
And that's another thing that's cool because PFL MMA is on ESPN platforms and such big networks, such big opportunities. And then, like you said, the championship night is New Year's Eve, Madison Square Garden, a place you're very familiar with. And it's just an incredible event, incredible time. There's a fight. It's not the main fight. Rory McDonald's on this week, which will be the second week of round 2 in June. We'll have another week. He's training down here in South Florida at Sanford MMA. I'm looking forward to Jordan Young of American Top Team here in South Florida against Filthy Tom Lawler, who has sort of a connection. Yes, he has a connection sort of with Lilian Garcia per se, not WWE, but he's a pro wrestler at Major League Wrestling. I'm just curious if you had any wrestling talk with Filthy Tom Lawler.
Absolutely. I did a series called Prep Point last year for the PFL, and I actually got to interview both Filthy Tom Lawler and also Young, and I love that they're going to face each other. And unfortunately, Jordan didn't even get to fight in the first, series of fights that we had in the first half of the regular season. And that's because his opponents, there was always something going on with his opponents, whether they didn't make weight, or something else. And so we're finally going to get to see what he does. And so that's going to be very exciting to watch. And yeah, it's just a very fun format to follow. But I do want to stress that this year the championship is not going to be on New Year's Eve. You don't have to wait that long. It's going to be after August. I can't tell you the date yet, but it's going to be way before New Year's Eve.
Hey, Lilian, do you know, I don't know if you could say this or not, and if you can't, that's okay. Do you know if it's going to be at Madison Square Garden then, or don't know? Or can't say?
I don't even know where the location of it is yet.
Well, that's interesting news. I'm glad you told me that, because in the past, after they took a year off for safety and health reasons because of COVID, which I think was a very good call, that they're coming back, and it's just going to be, it'll be exciting no matter what day it is and all, and where the venue is, it'll be very exciting. And I told Jordan Young, Lilian, just to be careful of any chair shots. You don't know what Filthy Tom is going to do.
I'll make sure not to have my chair at cage side so they can't steal mine like they always did at WWE.
Yes, Lilian, that's what we want to hear. Yes. Thank you, Lilian. Hey, do you have social media for fans? We'll wrap it up with that.
Absolutely. You guys can follow me at Lilian Garcia. Lilian is with one L in the middle on Instagram and Twitter. Lilian Garcia official fan page on Facebook. And, of course, anything for Lilian, for myself, is just go to LilianGarcia.com. And just want to say thank you to the fans. They've really accepted me in this transition into the MMA world. And, people like Ariel Alwani, who did some great interviews breaking the news that I was going into the PFL and giving me the support. It could have been not so good, and it was amazing, and it's been consistently amazing, and I'm having a blast, and I love the PFL.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Another time, Lilian, another time, we'll talk about that. I think that's so important, because the pro wrestling entering the MMA world, sometimes those MMA fans can be ruthless. I'm glad that they've accepted you and things are going well in that regard.
Yes, me too. Thank you.
Thank you, Lilian.
All right, thank you.